Welcome back for our second week of our Ask the Vet segment, a chance for you to email us your questions, what you would like answered about your pet maybe. Joining us today is Dr. John Faught. He's the medical director of the Firehouse Animal Health Center, and we got a great response last week. So we're going to get to some of those questions. But first, if you could introduce us to your friend.
This is Walter. Walter was a rescue dog that got a new owner about a year ago and ended up with kennel cough pretty shortly after getting out of the shelter environment, and actually got really sick with that. So he's all well now, but we decided to bring him on the show.
And for those of you that are adopting a pet from an animal center, I assume kennel cough is pretty common.
It is. It's a really contagious thing, and kennel cough is kind of a big syndrome that really includes a lot of different elements to it that can cause this contagious cough. Some are bacteria, some are viruses, and so it's usually a relatively self-limiting thing, and they get over it quickly, but Walter was kind of one of the exceptions to that rule that got really sick.
Well, while we're talking about stray dogs, a timely question came into us, and it's what are the dangers of stray animals and pets that they have to extreme cold like we've been experiencing lately?
Yeah, obviously not much of an issue in Austin with most of our pets, but with the cold weathers we're seeing, you know, frostbite, things like that have been a bigger issue. And,
sure.
And, you know, I think we just have to be cautious about not leaving them out in the cold too long, and make sure they have warm shelter to get away from the elements.
Absolutely. This question came from one of our viewers, Will, and he asked, my vet told me that my dog has a staph infection. Should I worry about that being contagious?
You know, I think the word staph infection gets thrown around a lot, and in human medicine that's a really scary thing because MRSA or MRSA, the methicillin-resistant type staph that people deal with, is a potentially contagious thing. In dogs, the normal bacteria that lives on the skin of dogs is a type of staph bacteria, and it's not contagious to people. So most of the typical skin infections we deal with in dogs we refer to as some sort of staph infection, not contagious to any other pets or to people.
And it sounds like Walter, he is part terrier. It sounds like so. He may want to play, although he's yawning right now.
Get out of here.
Another question. This one is about a cat. It comes from one of our viewers, Sandy, and it asks, her cat has a black debris always on his chin. What exactly is that?
That's actually a pretty common thing that we see with some cats, and it's the black debris is usually a keratinization, and so cats actually get what we call as feline chin acne, and it really is kind of like acne in people. It's the pores there get clogged with this keratin debris, and they get almost these blackheads. They can actually get infected and irritated, and cats are meticulous groomers, so they usually do a good job of cleaning themselves, but it's a really tough spot for them to get.
Yeah.
So there are some things that we can do to try to kind of prevent that from happening and also treat it, just kind of help them keep that area clean.
Interesting. Cat acne. Never heard of that before. Well, if you have questions that you would like us to ask the vet, you can always email them to us at AskTheVet@KXAN.com. We will try to get them on with Dr. John Faught again from the Firehouse Animal Health Center. Thank you so much for joining us. Walter, good to meet you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Welcome back. It is time to Ask the Vet, a chance for you to learn more about caring for your family pet, and send in your questions so that we can get some of the answers for you right here on our show. Joining us once again is Dr. John Faught from the Firehouse Animal Health Center here in Austin. Thanks for being here once again.
Thanks for having me.
You brought in another dog with you this week, and this one is pretty special. Who is this?
Yeah, this is Mabel, and Mabel was adopted from Austin Boxer Rescue a little over a year ago. She had heartworms that she had actually gone into heart failure.
Yeah.
And we ended up having to treat both the heart failure and the heartworms, and she's actually doing really well now, which is great. Very
close. Obviously, could easily lead to death. You were able to treat it. She's about how old now? Hi.
She is about 6 or 7, we think, but we don't really know much about her past history, so it was an adoption situation that we think she's about 6 years old.
She is obviously a sweetheart, but let's talk a little bit about heartworms because it can be deadly. I guess it depends on when you catch it.
Sure. You know, we routinely are trying to screen for heartworms on annual checkups because the earlier you catch those things, the better your success rate is treating them and keeping them from having problems. In her case, she'd already gone into heart failure, so we had to treat both the heart failure, and we're still treating that to this day because the damage was already there. But with general heartworm cases, We do. We try to catch them early so we can treat them early and have better outcomes.
How do dogs contract heartworms?
Heartworms are typically they're acquired. They're an actual worm that lives in the heart. They're acquired from mosquito bites.
Okay.
So mosquitoes bite infected dogs, pick up the immature larva, and then they go and bite an uninfected dog and inject that when they take a blood meal.
Obviously, it is treatable if you catch it at the right time, but prevention is always the best route to go.
Prevention is the easiest way to keep from having an issue. And you know, here in Texas, we have a lot of mosquitoes, and so we have a lot of heartworm disease. And so year-round heartworm prevention is really a smart thing to do because it's a lot easier than the treatment process.
So it is not contagious from one dog to another.
Not without the mosquito.
Not without the mosquito, exactly. We'll talk about the Boxer Rescue organization is at your health center this week? We're
actually having an event this Saturday from 12:30 to 2:30. We're actually having Austin Boxer Rescue come in, and we're actually having a board-certified veterinary cardiologist come in and talk about heart disease in the breed and heartworm disease and things like that. So it should be a fun event, open to whoever wants to come.
For pet owners at home, how often should they get their dogs checked for heartworms?
We generally do it annually at an annual visit just to kind of make sure that everything's good. If for some reason they've been off prevention for some time, there may be a reason to do it more often than that.
Certainly. Well, we wish the best for Mabel. She certainly seems like she's doing well, and again, she's just a sweetheart, so we're glad to see that she is recovering nicely. Thank you so much once again for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Dr. John Faught with the Firehouse Animal Health Center here in Austin. It is our Ask the Vet segment. If you want to send us your questions, send them in to AskTheVet@KXAN.com. We'll be right back. To keep your dog feeling like a champion, each week we like to Ask the Vet, a segment dedicated to your pet's needs with answers to your questions. And joining us once again is Dr. John Faught from the Firehouse Animal Health Center right here in Austin. Thank you so much for being here once again.
Thanks for having me.
And you always bring a friend?
Yes.
So who did you bring today?
This is actually my personal dog. This is Gage. He's turning 13, so I thought it would be a good thing to talk about some arthritis stuff because he's been slowing down a little bit.
He's a little camera shy right now.
Yeah.
This may be his first time on camera. So 13 years old, he's lived a pretty long life.
He's done really well. He's done really well.
So we're talking today a little bit about arthritis and how that can set in, especially in older dogs.
Sure. Yeah, we're seeing more age-related ailments with dogs because they're, well, and cats too, because they're living longer lives. We're taking better care of them.
Yeah.
So we're having to deal with a lot of the things that come with age, and arthritis is one of those things we're seeing a lot.
At what time do you kind of see it start to set in, and where do you start to see it set in?
It can, typically what we see is dogs have and cats have more trouble kind of getting up and moving. So a lot of times it's kind of their hips that are the areas that it shows up first, but it can affect any joint. Arthritis is a disease of the joint, so it can affect a lot of different joints. The hips are the ones that we tend to see most commonly. Age-wise, that ranges the spectrum. We see some dogs that don't have any real issues until they're way later, and then some, for whatever reason, they start having some issues with arthritis earlier in life.
So as an owner, best things to look out for, kind of trouble getting up and down, as you mentioned?
Yeah, I think if you notice that your pets are doing things a little slower than they used to, I think we naturally want to say, yeah, they're just getting older, but sometimes that part of getting older creates some arthritis, things that we can do something about and turn the clock back a little bit for them.
Is there anything preventative you can do ahead of time, and then what are some treatment options once you notice that they have that?
Sure, from a prevention standpoint, keeping them in a good healthy weight and not letting them get overweight is really advantageous. The other things, natural things like glucosamine, chondroitin, all those things are helpful in the early stages. Once they have arthritis and have pain and discomfort, there's a whole slew of new things, medications, anti-inflammatories, other types of pain medications. There's things that create extra synovial fluid to help to lubricate their joints. Stem cell transplants, acupuncture, all those things are being done now.
And you mentioned it also, you could see it in cats, similar symptoms?
Sure. I mean, I think realistically, any aging mammal, we actually treat arthritis in horses and cows and cats. I mean, I think that it's definitely a growing trend with aging animals.
Wonderful. Now, you, speaking of animals, we have a few that are about to walk on our set here. It looks like the penguins may have wandered off from the SeaWorld exhibit in the other side of our studio. So, hey guys,
Looking
what's
for
going
a place
on?
to go.
Yeah, so that we took Gage away so that he didn't go crazy when the penguins walked across the stage. But have you seen any of the arthritis symptoms in Gage?
You know, he's been slowing down a little bit, and we started him on glucosamine a while back, and he's actually done really well. But I haven't gotten to a point where I've had to put him on any other medications. We tried to keep him healthy and good so that I don't have to get to that point.
Yeah, 13 years. I don't know what the average lifespan is, but that seems like a pretty long life.
He's doing well. Well, every day is a blessing, so we'll keep going.
Well, we'd love to hear some of your questions if you have any for our Ask the Vet segment. Dr. John Faught, just email them to us at AskTheVet@KXAN.com. Thank you so much for being here once again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be right back with some penguins. Welcome back. It is time for our Ask the Vet segment, where every week we ask some of the questions that you may have to better care for your family pet. And joining us once again is Dr. John Faught from the Firehouse Animal Health Center in West Austin. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
And you brought a kitten with you this time. Introduce us.
So this is, we've been calling this cat Squint because there's an eye issue that needs to be sorted out, but the cat actually showed up on a client of ours doorstep a couple of days ago, and we've been trying to kind of help find a home for it.
And how old do you figure Squints is?
I think she's about 5 months old, if we had to guess, so that's what it looks like.
So she just showed up on your doorstep. Could you tell if she was cared for? Had she been in a fight?
She has an eye issue, which I suspect is a congenital thing because she doesn't have any real other trauma that goes along with that. And so she didn't seem to be shy around people. She ran right into our client's home and jumped on the couch. And so she's been a really sweet cat, and we're just trying to find a good home for her. So.
She just needs a forever home. Certainly she's been sweet since she's been here. Well, let's talk about, when you find abandoned animals, cats maybe specifically, what should you do?
Well, I think that the first thing we would recommend is just being cautious, because a lot of them aren't as sweet as this one, and they're scared and nervous and can act out, and if we don't know their health status, we always are a little bit guarded about things like rabies and that kind of stuff. So I caution people to be careful from that point going forward. If once you have them, we want to try to find if they have an owner, so looking for collars, tags, see if they're microchipped. Microchips can't be read by an individual, but at a vet clinic or the shelter can help with that.
When you talk about health issues that an animal may have, what are we talking about?
Well, with kittens, we're usually talking about, a lot of times they come in with upper respiratory viruses, sometimes internal parasites. They may be having vomiting or diarrhea. The other things we classically look for are things like leukemia and FIV, which can be acquired from their mother at birth.
For those that are looking to adopt a pet, or if they find an abandoned animal, a cat maybe, how do you introduce them to your household if you have kids, if you have existing pets?
Yeah, we try to go slow with that. We want to make sure that, a lot of times with cats especially, we have people go kind of a small room first for a little bit, kind of open up the house gradually. If you have other, if you have babies or other animals, sometimes it's good to transfer bedding, like a blanket or a towel or something, so that they can kind of get used to those smells and odors before they just get thrown all into the same environment together.
Absolutely interesting. And cats and dogs can mix, I guess, in the right environment.
Sure.
Yeah, they don't always fight.
Don't always, but yeah, there are a lot of them that get along just fine.
So for Squints, what all needs to be done to get her ready for adoption?
Well, we're going to try to get her vaccines and everything taken care of, and really we're just trying to find the right home and the right fit so that we can, and we'll go through the process of getting her caught up with everything that she needs.
And the microchip, just goes right under her skin, is that right?
Yeah, the microchips are a great thing because a lot of pets find homes that way. Had she been microchipped at this point, we'd be able to call and find the owner. But the challenge is that if that is never done, then you never really get them linked up the way they should.
Absolutely. Squints, we hope to find you a forever home. You can always contact us here at KXAN, or you can contact Dr. John Faught. He's at the Firehouse Animal Health Center in West Austin. Thank you so much once again for being here. If you have a question that you'd like us to ask the vet, you can send it to AskTheVet@KXAN.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back this afternoon. It is time to Ask the Vet. Dr. John Faught is here from the Firehouse Animal Health Center right here in Austin to answer some questions that you may have about caring for your own pet at home. And thank you so much for being here once again.
Thanks for having me.
You brought a friend with you. Introduce us.
Yes, this is Weta. She's a 9-year-old golden retriever that is a client's dog and was in the clinic today and wanted to come with us. So.
There you go. Yeah, making her television debut. Now, she's just in for an annual checkup.
Correct.
Nothing out of the ordinary, really, but just kind of reiterating the importance of getting that annual checkup.
Sure. Yeah, we do. We generally recommend a wellness exam annually with pets, and she's here for hers and seems to be doing really well, but she was a little overweight before, but we've gone on a weight loss plan, and she's doing great.
She's on a diet. And she's 9 years old, so she's getting into her golden years a little bit.
Correct.
All right. We do have a question from one of our viewers that we wanted to ask you. This is from Charlie, and his question is, he has a 2-year-old American Eskimo that's been chewing and pulling on a toenail on the inside of her leg. It's the claw a couple inches up from her paw. That's the dew claw.
Correct.
And she's been chewing on that one particular claw for a couple weeks. What's your advice to him?
If it's just the one claw, and the dew claw being the one that's not really a weight-bearing digit, usually what happens is that there's some sort of trauma, or either the nail gets split or torn, or sometimes there's even an infection that can occur at the base of the nail. If dogs are chewing at multiple nails, then we think about other things like allergies or something going on. But if it's just one nail, my guess is there's something going on with that claw, whether trauma or infectious, that may be the cause.
Yeah, best to get that one particular nail checked out.
Yeah, if it's been going on as long as it has, it may be worth checking out, because if there's an infection, and especially from licking and that kind of thing, it can be an area for that to persist.
Okay. Of course, spring is right around the corner, and we know that can bring out the fleas.
Correct.
When does that season officially really get going?
You know, we get this question all the time, and there's not really a flea season.
Okay.
We know that humidity and temperature affect when fleas hatch, so you tend to see more in the springtime and that kind of time, but the reality is that fleas, the adult fleas, live on their pets, and when it gets cold outside, the pets come inside, and so do the fleas, and they tend to live just fine.
How do you know if your pet has fleas? What are the signs to look for?
Well, I think we always think of the itchy dog as the dog with fleas, and in Austin we see a lot of dogs that are itchy for reasons other than fleas, like allergies and things like that. We also assume that if they're not itching, they don't have fleas, but that's not necessarily true either. And so we see both, we see dogs that come in and they're itching, and we look for fleas, and you want to try to get down to the base of the hair. We tend to look around the base of the tail and on the belly where there's less hair, and you can see little black things. They are visible, but they're small. And you can actually use a little flea comb to help find them.
And we're seeing some video of that right there. They also jump around. What makes them so difficult to get rid of?
Well, they're hardy little creatures, to be honest. I mean, they are, you know, I was doing some flea research. We were talking about how fleas can jump 150 times their height. So it'd be like a human jumping over buildings. They can eat 15 times their weight every day in a meal.
Wow.
And they lay 20 and 30 eggs a day. And that's the real problem for getting rid of them, is that they are reproducing so fast that unless you're using long-term products, we've really got to cover for more than just that one flea that we see at a time.
So where do you start to get rid of them?
We usually, you know, when I was growing up, we had a lot more environmental control because there weren't very many good products available, so you had to do a lot more bombing the house, spraying the yard, doing that kind of stuff. Now we have such great products, whether they're shampoos or topicals or oral flea prevention products, and so we generally recommend people find good products to use with the pets, and then you don't have to do nearly as much environmental control.
And is it a one-time thing, or do you have to kind of work at it over time to get rid of them?
Most of these products work really well, but they will kill the the fleas that are on the pet immediately, but then they're going to help prevent the new ones from coming. So as that cycles through, you generally get rid of them over time. So we generally recommend that they be on some sort of prevention on a monthly basis.
Tips for flea prevention for your pet. Dr. Faught, thank you so much for joining us once again. If you have a question that you would like us to ask the vet, you can send us your question to AskTheVet@KXAN.com. Thank you so much for being here once again.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It is time to Ask the Vet, where we answer some of the questions that you may have regarding your family pet. Joining me once again is Dr. John Faught from the Firehouse Animal Health Center here in West Austin. Thank you for being here once again.
Thanks for having me.
Who did you bring with you?
This is Addie.
Addie.
Yeah, and Addie is one of my receptionist dogs.
Okay.
And, she wanted to come on air today.
She looks like a people lover.
She's a great dog.
How old is she?
She's about 4 now, and so.
Yeah, so kind of fair-skinned, and as the spring season comes around, the sun starts to come out a little bit more. Interesting, you can actually put sunscreen on dogs.
That's correct. We some dogs, not many dogs need sunscreen, but dogs like this, she's got a really thin coat and her skin's really exposed on her nose and ears, and so as the spring comes on, we worry more about sunburn, and some dogs can actually use sunscreen.
Yeah, so that's a thing that they actually need. Not only can you do it, but they need it.
Correct.
Interesting. Yeah. So what other, dogs do you recommend? Is it just their ears and their nose? What do you need to look out for?
Really, the short-haired areas. Some dogs you'll see that lay on their belly all day. If their belly doesn't have any hair on it, then they can get sunburn. If the dogs are getting sunburn, we want to try to use a sunscreen, and we want to try to use something that's safe for the dogs. So we try to steer people kind of towards the children's sunscreens for people. There's actually some dog sunscreens available, but children's sunscreen works just fine too.
Anything to watch out for as far as sun exposure?
Well, as far as the sun exposure, they can develop little melanomas just like in people. So there are sometimes we see that in dogs. As far as the sunscreens, we do want to be cautious about certain products that have zinc oxide in them. Zinc can actually be detrimental to dogs, so they can actually cause red blood cell destruction if they ingest it. So that's why we try to find a safe product for them.
And go with the kids' sunscreen products. Is that?
That's probably the best way, or just try to find something that doesn't have zinc oxide, but most of the children's don't, so if they ingest it, it's not going to be a big deal for them either.
Well, we like to take some questions from our viewers, and last week we were talking about some flea products and how important flea prevention was, especially again with spring coming back around. Maybe the fleas are a little bit more active. One of our viewers wants to know if you should change flea products periodically. Yeah,
that's an interesting question, and one that comes up periodically. It's we know that when you talk about livestock that have intestinal parasites, they need to change products routinely because they'll develop resistance if they don't. We don't really do that with fleas as much. There's a lot of products available, but most of the products work really well, and resistance is something that just now is kind of being talked about as far as fleas go. I believe there probably are pockets where there is some of that, but there's not. It's not a huge issue at this time. So I usually tell people if the products aren't working, just find something different, work with your veterinarian to figure out a good product going forward, but I don't think you necessarily have to be rotating them all the time.
And whatever works for your dog.
Correct.
Another viewer wants to ask kind of a separate topic. Current options for separation anxiety. I know a lot of dogs get very attached to their owners.
That's right. Separation anxiety, and true separation anxiety, is actually a much more rare thing than people, I guess, than we talk about. When we talk about dogs that get excited when you leave, or they're whining when you leave, or whatever, that's not really true separation anxiety. True separation anxiety is when they can't stand to be away for a moment, and it never dissipates and goes away until the owner returns.
Maybe they don't eat, they're lethargic.
Destructive, they'll tear the house apart.
Right.
And so occasionally we see cases like that where it really is a big deal. And so there are a lot of options available for that. There's some very natural things that decrease stress, like there's some dog appeasing pheromone collars. There's the thunder shirts people talk about that wrap the dogs up.
Right.
Most of that, though, is there's a lot of training and a lot of desensitization that goes into that. And in extreme cases, we'll use medication sometimes, even things like Prozac, which are kind of bizarre for people to use. But those can be helpful in some of those separation anxiety cases.
Dr. John Faught from the Firehouse Animal Health Center in West Austin, thank you so much for being here once again. Addie, good to meet you. I love the patch on her eye.
I know.
So cute. All right, thank you.